This week on Attitude, we recognise Anzac Day, but we also look at the ongoing impact of war.
Coming up on Attitude, we travel to Colorado to the Disabled Veterans Winter Sports Clinic, and we find out how the injured veterans are coming to terms with the effects of war.
What happens here is people get the opportunity to be transformed.
The whole concept of going to war is really foreign to me. To see so many guys and girls disabled as a consequence of one war or another is just mind-blowing. What I want to try and find out is, what are the ongoing effects? I mean, are these guys messed up, or are they just getting on with life? Snowmass, Colorado is the scene where 500 American war veterans have gathered, all of them disabled as a consequence of war.
The Winter Sports Clinic is just one of many rehabilitative programs run by the VA, or the Veterans Affairs, with nearly $90 billion spent each year and a staff of 250,000 people. The VA is the second biggest government organisation after the military.
My name is Adam McCann. I served in the United States Marine Corps and was wounded in Iraq during a combat mission in April 24th, 2005. I took shrapnel to my neck. So you can see here, my left Achilles was cut in 2 places. My right tibial tendon was severed. I'm not an amputee or I'm not in a wheelchair. A lot of people think, I'm perfectly fine. But because they don't realize, what's inside my head, after, the blast and, my cage being rattled, people don't see that, so they don't think I'm, disabled. I'm on 2 different types of antidepressants to help with my, depression. And then I go see a psychiatrist, for the other mental issues. It's almost like I black out, and then I'll come back to, and someone they'll be like, you did this or you said that, and I won't remember doing it at all. It's extremely hard for me to even get out of bed. But pretty much like I barricade myself in my room, and I guess shut myself off from others. It's just my mental status is, you need to be alone, you need to have, you just can't be around others. When I barricade myself in, it's only for, short periods of times, but, some of the guys, that's their life.
Through the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, there's an injury that's becoming more and more common. It's called a traumatic brain injury. Thousands of soldiers are returning to the US with this type of injury.
My name is William Mitchell, and I'm a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps. I was injured in April of 2007 when an explosion rocked our convoy in Afghanistan. Now I work with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs as a public affairs officer. Out of Iraq and Afghanistan, our veterans are seeing a rather common injury called a traumatic brain injury. And for our veterans, it's really becoming a signature injury of those conflicts. In the old days, they called it shell shock. It's just a concussion or an internal injury to the brain, and it can cause a whole host of smaller symptoms that can be frustrating just to live with. Headaches, light sensitivity, extreme nausea.
So why are they more common in this conflict compared to others?
We've seen very creative use of explosives in Iraq and Afghanistan, including suicide bombers, vehicle bombers. We've even seen donkey-borne improvised explosive devices.
What's the VA doing to address this problem?
VA is very good about providing comprehensive care, but a lot of veterans, when they get back, they try to address their needs themselves. Unfortunately, sometimes that means a veteran will lock himself in his home where he feels safe, where he can control his environment, and where he can protect himself from the things that are bothering him, whether it's light or sound, noises, crowds, whatever. There's a real danger to become a shut-in because of that.
Any regrets? Wish you hadn't gone?
I'd go back in a heartbeat. Yeah, I got so much out of it, and with my military career being, so short, I feel like I almost didn't honor my contract.
I gotta say, man, why would you want to go back to war?
I live for, defending, the freedom of, the American citizens and, the flag of the United States.
War is a transformative experience for anybody that has to go. For some of these guys and girls, it sounds really weird to say this, but it's actually been a good thing. They're on a completely different pathway now, and it's through their disability that their lives are better.
Hi, my name is Kevin Panel. I was a member of the U.S. Army, and on June 13, 2004, I got injured in a grenade ambush in Sadr City, Iraq. We had come around a corner, and they threw the grenades at us to initiate the ambush up front, and I got hit by a couple of them that came in the back. Boom, they were all, I was kind of in the middle of this big shock wave. And so, yeah, it was definitely like, threw me down on my face, and I immediately stood back up because I was mangled but not amputated at the time. So I stood back up, and I started squeezing my fingers and trying to move my toes and look down, and I was in terrible shape, both femoral arteries severed, my brachial, so I'm just pouring blood out on the ground. When I woke up, I was in just ungodly pain, and I remember I would close my eyes and count to 60 because, like, if I made it through 60 seconds, it's one more minute, like, I didn't realize a human could go through that much pain, and still stay conscious. And so I was really angry, because I was hurting so bad. And I wanted to project that at somebody, so I focused on this dude. It's this guy that had hit me with the grenade. He had him on a black FUBU shirt, and I could see the logo. And I kept thinking about him, And after about 4 days of trying to project that hate on him, I realized, like, I came to this realization that no matter how much I agreed with what he was doing or disagreed with what he was there because he believed in his cause, just like I was there because I believed in the guys that were there with me, and it was an old-fashioned duel, man, I mean, he got the drop on me. If I'd have seen him first, who knows what would have happened. Once I figured out that I just couldn't force myself to hate him for that, then I was like, that helped me out so much, just not having to focus any of that anymore. And my pain started to subside. My rehab started happening very, very quickly, and I was able to focus on that instead of taking what could have been the worst event in my life and orbiting everything else around that one event, And I see a lot of people now who are consumed by that, and it sucks. It has to suck to live in that kind of world all the time, where you're just constantly mad, That opened so many doors for me that now I can genuinely say, like, I am happy that I got hurt. Like, I'm happier now than I've ever been in my life. Like, it just made me realize how short life was, how much I was wasting it before. And now I go out and try to be an example to people.
Have you come away from this experience with, really bad feelings about war? I mean, what do you think about war?
It's an experience that you would never trade, Like, it's opened my eyes to so much other stuff, but at the same time, it's something you wouldn't trade for $1 billion, but you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy,
So where to now for you, mate?
Snowboarding, yeah. Snowboarding's absolutely key for me right now. That's what I was lucky enough to pick up a couple of sponsorships, so I'm going to get to ride all year this year, all 12 months, so I want to get as good at it as I possibly can.
The number of injured veterans is so large now that their rehabilitation is a big business. A number of veterans have also set up their own organisations to help their comrades. Kevin does charity work and is part of a non-profit foundation which provides outdoor adventures to people who have suffered similar trauma in their lives. Kevin also does voluntary work with other amputees.
I'm certified through the ACA, the Amputee Coalition of America, to be a peer mentor, which means I can go into the military and some civilian hospitals and talk to the newly injured amputees and things. I think that's important because one of the benefits I had of being in a military hospital, from day one, I had other amputees coming into my room being like, dude, you want to run? Go run, learn how. You know, you want to do whatever you want to do, just go do it. I never had anybody set a reality for me. You know, and I hear that a lot in civilian hospitals. They get a lot of doctors and nurses and things coming in telling them, well, the reality is we can get you in a leg and you'll be able to go to the grocery store and check your mail. And I'm like, dude, like, how depressing is that? And they don't have anybody to tell them differently. And once that's lodged in your head, man, it's hard to get that out, you know? I mean, it's hard for me to tell a guy with a missing leg that, yeah, you can go snowboarding, you know, because he's been told this whole time that he can't. That's not something that he should learn to expect. And so he's going to have a hard time getting over that roadblock of just going out and trying it. I think it's that fear of failure just keeps people down so bad, you know? I mean, I'm like, man, you're an amputee. You're going to fail at things. You're absolutely going to fail at things. I take you out the first day on a snowboard and you're going to eat your ass, you know? Like, it's going to suck for you. But you got to keep doing it, you know? Like, you got to keep picking yourself up and doing it.
There's a lot of new disability technology coming out of the US, partly because there are so many veterans. 11% of the population, or 30 million people, are a veteran of one war or another.
This is the knee that I ride in. It's called an XT9. This silver piece is a pneumatic shock that goes down into a hydraulic cylinder. And then it's got this coil spring wrapped around it. So it's completely adjustable by these three holes right here, depending on what sport you want to do. And moving the cylinder around, adjust the angle that this sits at. So the angle that you would be standing on the leg at. Just use this quick adapt coupler. So that whole piece comes off without having to remove the socket. And then just slam that baby right on there. Put the screw back in it.
What does it help you to do?
This knee keeps you from buckling. It kind of mimics the movements of your quads. Like you would use your quads to move up and down the boards, going over the jumps, going over the bumps. With a regular knee, once you bend past a certain point, there's really a point of no return where the next place you're going is sitting. With this knee, I can literally just bend up and down on the knee itself. Makes all the difference in the world. I have rotators on these ankles too. So I can literally rotate from side to side on the ankles.
Wow. I've seen a lot of prosthetics in my time, mostly from New Zealanders, but this is like space age stuff. And who pays for it?
The VA does, yeah. The government. We're really fortunate.
What sort of costs are you talking about with the sea leg and
the sea leg? They don't let us see the invoices, but I know for a fact that the sea leg is just the knee from here to here is around $60,000. So then you got to add on the pylon, add on the foot, add on all the components, add on the sockets. You know, you get over 100 quickly. You know, really quick.
Tell me about them. What makes them so special?
It's a computerized knee. There's a little blue microprocessor back there. That reads signals that come up through the pylon at 55 times per second. So they go into this microprocessor and they're computed to tell this hydraulic cylinder what to do. See the little ports up here on the top? This one's actually for a charger. I have to charge it at night with this charger right here. And it just plugs in the top, just like a cell phone would. And then It's charged up. It'll go a couple of days without a charge, but it's a good idea to charge it every night.
Yeah.
And the other port, whenever you take it out, is for USB. So literally, I can go to my prosthetist, and he can hook it up to a laptop, and he fine-tunes my adjustments depending on what my preferences are. What it lets you do is go step over step down ramps, stairs, just all things that you really couldn't do before.
This is the 24th Winter Sports Clinic, and it's have a go on a massive scale. 200 qualified ski instructors and 500 veterans. For 5 days, the veterans are cajoled, prodded and encouraged to push their limits by doing all manner of adaptive sports.
I don't know how to play, but it's fun just skating around running into people.
Good job, thank you! Every veteran here has a story. All of them have had their lives shattered in the course of serving the country.
I just wanted to give you a big hug.
My name is Daryl Kuback. I'm a retired U.S. Army tanker, injured in 1993 with a T4 spinal cord injury. Today we're here in Snowmass, Colorado, and I'm sharing an outstanding week filled with freedom and fun on the snow with my disabled veteran warrior brothers.
Daryl, what's your background?
Good old southern boy from South Carolina. And you know, where I come from, it's all about military. You either work on the farm, you work in the factory, or you go serve your country. So that's also my family history, you know. Grandpa, grandma, uncles, aunts, everybody's always in the Army or a couple Air Force people. That's what I lived for, you know, since I was a 10-year-old boy.
What was it like immediately after your injury?
From the minute I was laying there on the ground and waiting for helicopters to come pick me up, I knew that I had a choice to make, and that was either to be positive and to live life from that place forward, or to not accept it, be negative, and start dying. Totally changed my life. You know, I got to interact with other injured vets who immediately helped me realize that there weren't any limits on life if I didn't allow there to be. With that attitude, with the family that was created here, I got to go into the world and take it on.
This sports clinic, it's more than just about skiing, isn't it?
What happens here is people get the opportunity to be transformed into a human being that is ultimately unstoppable and is willing to embrace life for all that it has to offer and really not see limitations. I believe what we end up doing is becoming a gift for each other, and we become a gift for everybody else who we get to have an interaction with or who observe us.
Not all the veterans at the sports clinic were injured in a war. A lot of them had accidents around their base. Dana Lysengang was violently assaulted, then thrown over a 70-foot cliff. Doctors told her she would never breathe on her own again. She wasn't listening.
I know that you're quite adventurous. Can you tell me about some of the things you've done?
Driven a big rig, 18-wheeler, cross-country skiing, downhill skiing, quad rugby, wheelchair racing.
So all of this when you're in a wheelchair?
All of this is in a wheelchair.
Okay, so let's talk about the Navy.
I joined April of '90, and I got my neck broke in October of '90, so wasn't in very long.
You were 19?
Yeah, I joined when I was 18, and I turned 19 in that period of time, and was got injured, violent crime, got thrown off a cliff, broke C1 through C5, I guess he thought I was dead, so he threw me off. That's my guess.
What was behind the decision to join the Navy?
Working as a car detailer in a mechanic shop, auto body shop, changing tires, washing cars, just didn't seem like the life at the time. So I went into the military, and my dad was in the Navy. I grew up running around in the shipyards. And
Now, you're a vet, but is it kind of weird that everybody else has tasted action and you're
it
just
is,
kind of like...
yeah, I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't really feel like a veteran because I was only in for 6 months, so there's a little bit of... I mean, when I first got injured, there was a lot of guilt because my ship went to the Gulf right after I got hurt during the Gulf War. And so there was a lot of guilt there. But I don't really feel like a vet like these guys because they've really actually been to war and seen the action, and I got taken out by one of our own.
From what I can gather, being part of the military is quite a macho thing. What's it like for a woman?
The veterans will be the first ones to go, "You're not getting help, are you?" When I first got injured, I could barely push my chair. Some of the Vietnam guys, double amputees, they look at me and go, "You need help, little girl?" I mean, there's a lot of peer pressure, but that peer pressure is to keep you going forward. And I don't think I would be as far as I am without the rest of my comrades. It's been a really great journey. I've met some of the most wonderful people that I would never have had the chance to meet. And the experiences I've had and the personal growth, yeah, I wouldn't change it.
Why do you keep coming back after 19 years? I mean, what is it about this place and this clinic that's, brings you back every time?
First of all, the camaraderie. You just can't beat that. If you have any kind of down moment throughout the year, you've got the Winter Sports Clinic to bring you up, build your confidence. It helped me get out of a bad marriage and move on with my life. It helped me grow up mentally.
Tell me about some of the stem cell treatment that you've been going through.
The first thing I did was in Tijuana, Mexico, and they were injecting pig cells, and they were embryonic cells, and they were just injections. And then I went to China and had surgery where they opened up my neck from C3 to C5, or C6 rather, and they injected olfactory cells at C3 and C6 because they wanted to bridge the gap. And before I went to China, I didn't have any function in my fingers. Obviously, I've got some now. So I started getting hand function, and that plateaued about 3 years after that injections, and I constant working out.
What's your end goal?
End goal is to get out of this thing. That's the end goal. When I first started coming to the Winter Sports Clinic in '93, I was typical C5 quad and sit skiing, downhill for the first few years, and then this year I was out there on the trail with skis and poles.
Standing up.
Standing up.
So can you explain to me, why do you use the wheelchair? You can't walk, you can stand.
Walking's not functional enough yet. It's still more functional and getting around in the chair, and once it becomes functional, yeah, I'll get out of it. If I could actually, if I could fall down, get up from the ground, I'd walk around, but I can't get back up. Get in front of me.
Yep.
1, 2, 3. I'll take it.
Which one you want to put in first, right or left? Yes.
How's it feel, Dana?
Feels good.
Yeah? You're surrounded by all these men. It must be pretty good. You got a meeting out of
I've been surrounded by these men for a long time. They're all mine. Yeah, they're the Ponderosa boys.
She's had a predominant weakness, but she has come light years.
Yeah.
And we use poles only this year. This
Okay.
is good for, speed. Poles are very exhausting, so this keeps me from getting too exhausted, and I get a better glide.
How far will you go?
How far is the course?
It's a mile. She went a mile.
A mile?
Mile.
Yeah, how much do you
Yeah.
think of the the Navy training that's coming out with this.
That's just something you're born with.
Yeah.
The military maybe helps groom it a little bit, but you either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
While Dana's spinal injury was very high up, she didn't have a complete break, which allowed her, many years later, to try stem cell treatment to repair some of the nerve damage. All of this has been outside the US, which doesn't sanction these treatments. She has to pay for it herself out of a number of smart real estate deals.
That is one determined lady.
As well as China and Mexico, Dana has travelled to India and the Dominican Republic to find the best stem cells in her quest to walk again.
Hey.
Oh, Jesus. I want you to know that I pulled a lot out of my hat going up that hill. Talk about pulling out the military training. That was it right there.
With the crowd behind him, there's no way this guy was coming down till he rang the bell. And that's the thing about the sports club, the fantastic support and encouragement the veterans give each other.
Do you know what I thought when I first found out that I was coming to a American Veterans Sports Clinic? I thought I was going to be meeting a bunch of jocks, you know, a bunch of jarheads, a bunch of guys are macho and, you know, just not really in touch with the world. But what I've found is that through being disabled, the guys and girls that I've met have got a different way of looking at life now. You know, they're more human. And it's through sports clinics like this that their lives are so much better. Next week we spend an intimate half an hour with Samuel Gibson, inventor, husband and father.
The first thing you notice about Samuel Gibson is his size.
I'm very aware of being a short little fellow in a pretty unique wheelchair is not the norm, but I do have normal aspirations and goals, and I'd get the same kick out of achieving those as anybody.
He's a successful businessman, has a loving wife, and now a baby daughter.
See you next week. Attitude was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.